This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. If you have cosmetic surgery, you're obviously doing it for a reason. Cosmetic results. And many times, this is not considered. But what's happening to your body? You had surgery. There's a trauma. You're addressing different issues there, including the lymphatic system, which is a part of any surgery, essentially. But sometimes the cosmetic result might not be exactly the way you want because your lymphatic system wasn't addressed. Well, this is kind of the stuff that the many cosmetic surgeons don't tell you about because there's added cost in that, and they don't want you to see the price tag that you need extra therapy to get the best result. But you do. So let's talk about that. She is the president and owner of Boone Lymphatics and Massage Therapy, runs deep in all of this when it comes to the lymphatic system. And it's so great to have Ann Boone back with us. How you doing today?
I'm great, Steve. Thank you. And you really encapsulated exactly what we deal with as lymphatic therapists, is trying to get the surgeons on board and get them to educate their patients ahead of time that the surgery is just the beginning. Yeah.
And I get it that you're paying a considerable amount for the cosmetic surgery. And once the surgery is done, you move on,
Right.
You come back for a post-op and all of that. But, if all cosmetic surgery doctors, facilities were to tell you, well, you know what, for the best result, you really need lymphatic massage and some other treatments to get the best. Well, right away, the price tag is going to be going up, and sometimes they leave that out. But, we're addressing the elephant in the room because you went for one reason, to have a good cosmetic result. What's actually going on there? Let's say you have a tummy tuck or whatever the procedure is. How does the lymphatic system really dictate how you are going to heal?
Well, especially with a tummy tuck. And there are some surgeons in Miami and places like that that will refer you to lymphatic drainage, but a lot of times these people are not very well trained and or not certified. So with the tummy tuck in particular, the lymphatic system, if you think of your body divided into 4 quadrants, so down the center and then through the middle of your belly button. As we spoke of before, as I've spoken of, armpits, your axillary area has lymph nodes. Your inguinal or groin area has lymph nodes, and in those quadrants, so the upper 2 quadrants, my right quadrant would drain to my right armpit, my left to my left armpit, my right lower quadrant to my right groin, and my left to my left groin. Now, when they do a tummy tuck, they remove a bunch of skin and they pull all that skin down from the top and they sew it along the line of your pelvic, right above your pubic bone. You've just lost those lower quadrants. It no longer can drain to the inguinal area or the groin area. It has to now drain up. Everything has to drain up towards the armpits. So if you think of that as a barrier, as well as that whole, what they call the watershed, has been taken away. So if you're not trained in how to specifically perform the sequence that particular surgery needs post-operatively, you can cause a lot of problems.
This is huge. This is deeper than I thought. Got to tell you, just in that, tummy tuck example of what's going on there. And when you think about it, we don't think about it, but you're rearranging your organs internally. There's things that are getting...
You're not really rearranging your organs, but you certainly are rearranging the landscape of your lymphatic system, which much of it is right under the skin.
That's where I was going with that. That's it. There's a lot of changes that are happening. Mm-hmm. It's not just the skin, removing some, sewing it up. We've got a lot going on underneath the skin, even just a little underneath the skin, that is going to dictate how you heal too, right?
Yeah, even if you just have liposuction, here's your skin and your lymphatics are between the skin and your vascular system, and here's your muscle. They completely separate that. They put a cannula in, they put tumescent fluid in there, which which liquefies the fat. They suck that out along with parts of your lymphatic system. And then that's why you have to wear compression afterwards to help things heal and help the lymphatic system return lymph back to the system. Now, one of the things I wanted to highlight today, which seems to be coming up a lot around all of this, and this can be used either post-surgically or in lieu of, are some of the adjunct therapies like wood therapy, radio frequency, cryolipolysis, ultrasound cavitation. And one of the ones I want to talk about first that I had a call for this weekend, and I was a bit dismayed, but it's called lymphatic enhancement therapy. I've never heard of it before, so I looked it up. And what they do is they use a microcurrent machine. I don't know if you've ever seen those things that people use on their faces sometimes that look like a blue light, and it almost looks like something from a sci-fi movie or something. Sometimes there's little like electricity coming out of it. So they use these microcurrent wands. They use red light therapy, and they use manual lymphatic drainage. And the claim is that it helps move the lymphatics and clear the system. The person I talked to this weekend said that her friend was using it to treat cancer. And so I said, well, she said the whole side of her body, her armpit down to the side of her body to her groin was swollen. And I asked her if the friend had had a biopsy, and she said no. I said, well, how do you know that she has cancer? And she said she doesn't. She just assumes it. She's a nurse and she's self-diagnosed. So first of all, there's a problem right there. Second of all, cancer usually does not present like that necessarily all the way down the side of the body. There's usually a very targeted area. So my concern is there's something else going on there. So this is what I'm running into with all of these therapies, is that there are these claims. Now, the people doing it didn't claim it cures cancer, but this person has had good results with 3 sessions and things have gone down. So that also makes me think it's not a cancer diagnosis. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. And we get a lot of people who want quick results. They hear melts fat instantly. It's going to take care, it's going to be permanent results. And most of these things like wood therapy, radio frequency, ultrasound cavitation are temporary. Cool Sculpt is the cryolipolysis.
Yep.
And so that particular therapy will freeze and destroy some of the fat cells, but without proper diet, exercise, hydration, and making sure that you are ruling out any other contraindications to these therapies, you can run into problems. I've had clients come to me who had wood therapy, which they take literally wood, different shapes of wood, and it's very vigorous on your body to sculpt your body. I've had clients come in with broken ribs because it was so rough and they had osteoporosis, and the person did not account for that. And so it's, these are temporary fixes for something that, that really need more training. Yeah. And
is it reasonable, not to scare anyone, but let's be real here. Is it reasonable to say that when you have cosmetic surgery, when you have some of those treatments you just mentioned, it's a trauma? You're causing a trauma to your body. I don't think we look at it that way, but and with trauma, there's some collateral, I don't want to say the word damage, but situations that need to be addressed,
Yeah. And sometimes in some instances of healing, we do want to cause a little bit of trauma. That's what Graston therapy is all about. It's a scraping type therapy that is used often to work with tendons and areas around joints. But you are definitely causing damage to the system for sure. Yeah. And facilitating the healing of that without causing more damage, because with radio frequency, often I'll have people call me and say that they had radio frequency directly after a surgery when the tissue is very fresh. And this uses heat to stimulate collagen. Well, if you do that too soon, you can cause fibrosis. You can cause some hardening of the tissue. So you want the lymphatic system to get back to flowing and moving and that type of thing. You don't want an overgrowth of collagen tissue right away. It's not advised within 3 to 4 weeks of surgery. And yeah, so you have to be careful, because it's a money making industry. It is a high dollar industry, and um, as you know, I've talked about that a little bit. It People want to look good. They want to feel good. I mean, everybody wants to feel healthy and look great. And you have to be careful about the claims that people are making around a lot of these devices and treatments.
I I gotta tell you, I'm guessing here that I, in your experience, give me the number. I'm thinking like 60% of people that have cosmetic surgery, lymphatics never even discussed. They just go, they do their thing, they have the post-op. Not, it doesn't even come up in a conversation with the cosmetic surgeon or his team.
I think that'd be fair. I'd say it'd probably be higher, and it really just depends on the area. Here, where I am in Lexington, Kentucky, we're starting to get surgeons on board, letting them know that we have education, we have certifications, we have licensing, and again, places like the Dominican Republic, Brazil, um, places where they've done this for a very long time, and they also have some of these therapies in place that are pretty extreme. I mean, there's pretty extreme things that go on. So the surgeon has these people working in their offices, and this is something that's going on as a conversation with the licensed and certified community, is that surgeons actually have people working in their offices reopening drain sites and things like that, which they should not be. And so
Mm.
the surgeons educating the surgeons as to what lymphatic drainage really is and what types of therapies are appropriate afterwards and what types aren't. So yeah, no, I'd say that's probably fair. That's probably higher that of the number that don't. And
I didn't
don't
want to alarm. That's why
no,
I
no,
kept it
no, no.
down.
It's probably higher. And really since the pandemic, Steve, I've just
Mm,
really started seeing more people having cosmetic surgery done, or at least, seeking out lymphatic drainage because they're seeing it online or TikTok, or doctors are starting to um, refer people. But it still is, ideally, the doctor would tell the person when they schedule their surgery, now schedule your lymphatic drainage. We're booked for weeks ahead of time. I'll get calls and say, can you get me in this week? And no, unless
right.
there's a cancellation. And plus
Wow.
the very first appointment, we take a very thorough medical and health history. So we also have another half hour at least baked into that. And it's amazing what comes up with people. They don't realize that diabetes can affect the treatment,
Wow.
any kind of cardiovascular issues, any past injuries. There are a lot of things that people think, oh, well, that happened a long time ago, that can affect the treatment.
Mm. Well, let's talk about that for a moment. Let's say you had surgery 10 years ago for something. Well, let's say it
Mhm.
was a little more invasive, wasn't just a quickie procedure. Could your lymphatic system, I'm going to use the word be compromised from something way back in the day? And could you, at this juncture, with lymphatic massage, benefit?
Absolutely. And even a combination of lymphatic drainage therapy and fascial therapy. So, working with the connective tissue. So, I have a lot of people who come in who've had, excuse me, multiple abdominal surgeries. And so it could be 50 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever it was. But that might be restricting their ability to lift a leg. It might restrict their ability to reach their arm up. If you think of us, we're a complete glove of all this fascia and connective tissue. So I've worked on people in the lower right hand quadrant near their hip bone, and they say they feel a release all the way up through the left shoulder. So, using some lymphatic drainage techniques, some visceral techniques, some fascial manipulation techniques definitely can help make a change. Now, we don't break up scar tissue. As I've said before, we don't release toxins. We do work with, metabolic waste and that type of thing. But there's so many systems in the body that can benefit from working with those systems. And as I mentioned before, lipedema or lipedema is one of those things where fat collects in the connective tissue and traps lymph. And these are people who have a really hard time losing weight, and usually their legs are very heavy. except the foot is not, it's foot sparing. So the foot doesn't look swollen, but they look swollen all the way down to the ankle. So yeah, work with a lot of people who've had surgeries or medical conditions that started a long time ago.
So you said you don't break up scar tissue, but let's say somebody had some kind of surgery, whether it was cosmetic or not, and let's say the scar didn't heal the way they anticipated. You know, maybe there's some lumpy areas, and let's say it was 2, 3 years ago, to pick any number.
Sure. Yeah.
Would they be a candidate for some type of massage therapy to get maybe a slightly better result even after all this time?
Absolutely. So it's
Wow.
more in the languaging than anything else. So as working with scars, we're looking for glide and slide and shear between the tissues. We're not breaking anything up. So we're creating more length. I like to use like if I take a tablecloth and I make a twist in it, and you see all the different little lines that go out from that and everything that it affects. So over time, and it partially has to do with the nervous system too. So there can be some holding around that area just in the nervous system. So getting that to start to release, working with the nervous system, working with the fascia, working with the lymphatic system, starting to get that to release and to release other areas of the body because it affects everything around it in the way that we use our body as well.
Nobody talks about this stuff. That's huge. That is huge. And the analogy of the tablecloth, I totally have it. You know, like where it was
Yeah,
smooth, that's your skin.
right.
You had surgery, so now it's twisted. And even, take a
Yeah.
shirt and just twist it a little bit.
Yeah. You see how it
Yeah.
causes a tightness in your shoulder and everything else.
But look at how many areas it affects. Are you able to help smooth it out? We're not talking about, complete
Mhm.
because you waited 3 years, but is it reasonable to think that you can do some smoothing of that?
Absolutely. And it would have to do also with helping them find ways to do some self-treatment by maybe some pin and stretch. So they might hold the area and do some stretches. Because what I do once a week, once a month, however frequently it is, I want to make sure that they're also doing some things to support that. They're not just going back to their desk and typing all hunched over, that they are moving in novel ways and opening their, I'll say, we'll use the analogy of a surgery being right there where you were talking about, moving their body in novel ways, because most of the time we only move our hands in front of our body.
Hmm.
We hardly ever reach out to the sides, overhead, those kinds of things. So getting people to embody their movement, get into their movement, become aware of their interoception, so their inner workings, how they feel when something feels tight, starting not being afraid. I get a lot of people with shoulder surgeries or injuries that I call it sort of the broken wing syndrome. They come in and they're holding their arm like this because when they move it, it hurts, and they want to make sure they're not making something worse. I say, no, you have to move it. And over time, it'll get better and better. And I've seen people really, scars go to almost imperceptible from keloided and bunched up.
Would you say anybody having surgery, considering surgery, schedule for surgery, should consider some type of lymphatic massage or fascia massage, something? And
Absolutely.
I'm saying any surgery.
Hmm.
I mean, even
Hmm.
if it's somewhat minor, if it's got the word surgery,
Hmm.
there's slicing, there is stitching. Um, if you want the best cosmetic result and mobility, as you just said, everybody should do it.
And again, we go back to, we always want to look at contraindications. We always want to look at what type of procedure the person had. And, I have people who've had sinus surgeries where they've had internal work, but doing lymphatic drainage around the whole face after those surgeries really helps. So again, we're always looking at contraindications. We're always looking at other things that may affect it. But in my experience, most people do benefit post-operatively, or even autoimmune disorders, those types of things. And it's really important to have communication with the client around those treatments. How did it work for you this time? Okay, let's titrate it up or down depending on their reaction to it.
What else can you tell us? What have we, in the next couple of minutes that we have left, that we should be aware of?
Well, I mean, with any of this stuff, really for long-term results, consistency is key. So just with your physical health, exercise, calorie balance, cutting out just junk and that type of thing, that can help with bloating, with the digestion, with healing on any level. So being consistent, I think, is the hardest thing for most people. They think it's a one and done type of thing. And with any of these treatments, lymphatic drainage is something that you need to do periodically in general in order to stimulate the lymph system. It's not just a one and done type of thing.
Hmm. This is stuff that nobody talks about. Thank you for bringing it up. It is it's big, it's huge, and I'm just talking about the cosmetic area connected to it. When you talk about the mobility, and you're right, how many of us swing our arms around, unless you're doing, tennis or sports or pickleball or something, you're really not. Mm-hmm. So imagine
people don't hang or do anything.
Right. So imagine if your mobility is compromised from a surgery that you had, because yes, everything is connected, especially with the fascia. Again, for anybody that doesn't know what fascia is, my best description is
connective tissue.
Yeah.
It's just connective tissue.
Yeah. Like when you're cooking a chicken and you're cutting it up and you see that white stuff underneath the skin.
That's thin. Yeah.
There it is. And that's in all of us, our entire body, that's underneath our skin. Now imagine breaking that up through surgery and not addressing it. Then now you have something totally different. The lymphatic system would be underneath that in terms of layers. Yeah.
Well, and it affects people's long-term health. When they stop moving, they stop being able to move. Then they stop being able to do, they're just activities of daily living, and then they lose quality of life.
Right.
So, that's keeping people moving and being okay with getting their nervous system to know it's safe.
You are in the Lexington area, obviously, for hands-on, literally, massage. We have to be by you. But you said if anybody's got questions or needs some kind of referral in another state, you could help them out with that as well?
Yeah. So I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, and we have a contact form on our website, which is BooneMassageTherapy.com. So that's BooneMassagetherapy.com. And our phone number is 859-209-9005. So that's 859-209-9005. And yes, I'm happy to help anybody find resources in other states and even other countries sometimes.
Thank you so much for this insight during these podcasts. This is a game changer. And again, most of this is people don't talk about it, not even your cosmetic surgeon.
No.
And we need to, because cosmetic this will improve the result with this type of therapy and so much more. Again, thank you so much, Ann. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate you. Take care.
You too. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.